Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about how to be an effective employee. This in no way means that you are not effective in whatever organization you work for. These are just things that I believe will help make each and every one of us become more effective. If you haven't watched my video on how to get along with your colleagues, can I please suggest that you do so, because it will help you also. And it's kind of related, the workplace, your colleagues. I mean, where else do you have colleagues if it isn't your workplace, right? Let's get into it. Now, when you accept to be employed in an organization, before you accept, you must ask all the questions you need to ask to make sure that their visions, their goals, their objectives are things that you can dedicate yourself 110% to. This is what I believe. If you cannot, then don't take the job. Now, I'm not saying you must agree with everything they say. You don't have to. Let's be realistic. We all need jobs because we need money. We need to pay the bills. So sometimes we take jobs that we may not necessarily believe in or like that. But, bills have to get paid and we need to earn a living. So we take the job. The moment you take the job and you clock into work, those visions, those goals, and those objectives must become your own. Every reservation you have about them or with them, toss them out the window. Because if those reservations are that strong, then you shouldn't be an employee at that organization. That is the bone of contention. That is the first thing you have got to know to become an effective employee in the workplace. You have got to be able to take on the organization's goals, visions, and dreams as though you wrote them, as though you believe in them 110%, as though they were your own. The Bible says in Habakkuk, write the vision, make it plain so that the reader may see it and run with it. And that's what organizations have done. They write down their objectives, they write down their vision so that when you, the runner, the employee, comes into the organization, you can see it. What they expect is that you take it up and you run with it. And if you cannot do that, then it is not right that you remain at that organization. I'm not unrealistic. So I know that sometimes you take the job, like I said, because bills need to get paid. But if that's your reason for taking the job, you've got to come to a place where you can immediately you clock in at 8, 7, or 9, whatever your resumption time is. You can put aside all grievances that you have, all reservations that you have, and work like that is your vision. That's one way of becoming an effective employee. So if you've been fighting with your organization's goals or the visions, or you don't agree with it, I would suggest that first of all, pray about it. Ask God if He can give you the grace to accept it so you can run with it. And if you cannot, even after praying and all of that, then take a deep breath and start reconsidering what your other options are. Now, whether you're an employee or an employer of labor, the fact is, in your workspace, you have people you work with. They are your colleagues. And together you create an environment that you want both them, yourself, and your business to thrive. That is the goal of every organization and every business owner. No gossiping. Gossiping is when you talk about people in a negative way. And what that does is that subconsciously seeds, thoughts, and ideas are being dropped into your spirit, even if you're not the one saying anything negative. Because a lot of times you will hear things like, I didn't say anything negative, but you sat there and you listened to someone else say all these negative things about the person. You didn't ask them to keep quiet. You didn't step away from the conversation. You sat there and listened to all the negative things that were said about the person. And what happens in those situations is that seeds are being dropped in your spirit, ideas are being dropped in your spirit about that person, and it begins to eventually subconsciously play out in your attitude towards that person. You may not even realize it on time, especially if you're not very self-aware. For some reason, you're just going to start having issues with the person, and you're going to have to sit down and reflect to think, hold up, did this person actually do anything to me? And if you can reflect on that enough, if you can be reflective enough, you will see that it started with the things you heard about the person. So there is power in hearing about negative things about people. Whether or not those negative things are correct is not the issue. The fact is, if you have something to say to someone, step up to them and say it. If you cannot step up to them and say it, then don't tell me. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go fight the person? Do you want me to start hating the person? No way. If you're going to be a good employee, you've got to avoid gossiping, because it is going to make you lose focus. And as an effective employee, you have to be focused. That is non-negotiable. Now, what exactly does it mean to be focused? What's your job description? What were you employed to do? That's where your focus is. Are you doing it? Are you looking for the best ways to do it? Are you researching different options on ways to do it? Or are you just sitting there thinking, oh, they said I should press Control and C, so that's what I'm going to do all day? Are you asking questions? What does Control and C do? Is there another way to do it? Is it possible to press just one button instead of two? To be effective, remember I said you have to think like that business is your own. And if it is your own, you are going to want to do everything possible to make sure it succeeds and it achieves its goals and its target. So as an effective employee, you must be creative. It doesn't matter what they gave you in your job description. Don't just sit there ticking off boxes. No, think outside the box. Be creative. Do some research. Present your ideas to management. Now, I realize that in some organizations, they don't have a good open policy, in the sense that they're not very welcome to receiving. It doesn't matter. If they throw away your idea, I know it's going to hurt. It's going to be like a kick in the stomach, but you know what? You've learned. And who knows where God is going to take you tomorrow, and where that knowledge is going to help you, or even just that ability to research and come up with ideas is going to help you. Do not let anybody kill your shine. Another way of staying focused is to realize that when you clock in, you give your work 110%. I mean, apart from the fact that you may be feeling ill, or if you're married with kids, your kids or your spouse are ill, you have to take excuses and leave work. Other than that, they have your full attention. Put in your best. During your work hours, try not to put your personal needs above the organizational needs. Now, I'm saying this to a reasonable extent. I do not mean, like I just said earlier, that if someone in your family, if there's a medical emergency or something, you're supposed to ignore the person because you want to be this effective employee. No, that's not what I'm saying. All things being equal, everybody being all right, when you're at work, it's not the time to be chatting with your friend. It's not the time to be catching up with your cousin. Oh, look what happened at so-and-so's wedding. Oh, there's a wedding coming up. What are we going to do? That's not the time. Now, if you're doing that during your breaks, that's okay, because like I said in the beginning, you have to take breaks. It's not realistic to sit and stare at a computer screen from 8 till 4 or whatever your work time is. I don't even think that's healthy. So you must take breaks. I once worked in a Chinese company where at 3 different times during the day, we would hear music playing, and we all had to come out of our offices and do some stretching exercises for, I think, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I can't really remember, because it's not healthy to sit down all day. It's not healthy to stare at a screen all day. You need that time to unwind and let your brain relax, catch up with your friends, your colleagues, just take a meal, take a snack or whatever. Those times are fine. But when you're working, it's time to work. Drop everything else and give it your best. You have a lot of people who have negative feelings. They leave a place and they feel bad towards their boss, and they blame the person for taking up all of their life. Darling, if anybody took up all of your life and all of your time, that's because you let them. Like I've said throughout this video, when you're at work, work that work. When you close from work, close that work and go live your life. Just so that you don't become a grumpy person, saying, oh, this organization took up the best years of my life. What am I supposed to do now? And I've heard that so many times. And I've even seen friends and colleagues go through the same thing, and they leave the place with such a bitter taste in their mouth because they allowed somebody else to take up their time. Remember, being an effective employee does not necessarily mean laying down your life for the organization. And I understand that sometimes you may have to take work home to meet deadlines. But if that becomes the norm every day, every week, every month, and every year, then there's a problem. That's no longer being effective. You have been consumed by your workplace, and you need to find a way to balance it. Now, I cannot tell you how to balance it because I don't know the specific details of your case, but you do. Do some research, work-life balance. How can I do this? How can I do that? And find a way to balance it, because if you don't, at the end of the day, you're going to be bitter at your organization or at your boss. And to be honest, it's not really their fault, because if you're willing to lay your life down for me, I'm going to take it, because I got a million things to do that I would like you to help me do. So don't be mad at your boss that he's calling you at 11 o'clock. When he called you the first time, you picked up the phone. But that's story for another video. The Bible also says, it supports this by saying you cannot serve two masters, for you will surely end up loving one and hating the other one. It's the same thing when you're at work. Work must be your master. And when I always talk about balance, work-life balance is very important. So when you close from work, drop everything work, no matter how hard it is, and pick up your life and do you. That way it balances out. When you're at work, you're not feeling guilty that you're ignoring yourself and not, whatever. When you're at work, let it be work. And when work is over, do you, people. Do you. Another way to be an effective employee is to maintain an attitude of gratitude. Now, this may not generally reflect in your workplace per se, meaning that they may not have things that make you grateful. But when you look at your life as an individual, look at the fact that you have a job, it pays you. The pay may not be great, but it pays you. And because it pays you, you can pay your bill, you can take care of your family, you can take care of yourself, you can lend a helping hand. That's enough reason to be grateful. And I've realized that gratitude in general just makes you a more effective person at whatever you do. People just want to be around you. You get things done. And I've noticed it at my workplace. If I'm feeling frustrated, I hardly ever can find the solution to a problem. A lot of times I just need to chill, tell myself, Rosetta, take a 2-minute walk, and I'll just walk around the building. And by the time I come back to my seat, I've calm myself down, and solutions will start coming into the problem that I may have been spending 1 hour trying to fix. So an attitude of gratitude always helps, be it when you're an employee, be it in your personal life. Attitude of gratitude on point. It's important for you to keep developing yourself. If your organization sends you for trainings, then that's amazing. If it doesn't, there's lots of resources online now. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. Develop yourself. Just make yourself better. Don't always think that you're doing it only for the organization, because in reality, any knowledge you get is yours. Anything you learn is in your head. Nobody can take it out of your head. So keep developing yourself, keep growing, keep exposing yourself to things that will challenge you and help you grow. We can remain stuck sometimes because we get comfortable in knowing what we know. Oh, I can do it. You can wake me up from sleep. I can do that. That's all well and good. So move on to the next step. What can't you do? Always be willing to learn. Always be willing to develop yourself, to learn new things. It makes you a better person, and it definitely makes you a great employee. So this is what has helped me become an effective or remain or be an effective employee. And I also look at the fact that God is my ultimate boss. So as much as I have a boss at work, I like to remember that my life is in the hands of God, and therefore He is my number one boss. And if He expects me to be effective wherever He places me in terms of workplace, then I'm going to do what I can to make sure that I am effective. Thank you so much for listening. As usual, I'd like to hear what you have to say. What has helped you become an effective employee? Do you have any more tips? Write them down. Let's have a conversation about it. Are these things doable? Am I asking too much? Am I saying too much? I'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time. Bye.